Derek Carr's farewell tweet, what I think about Derek Carr's trade possibilities, and my thoughts, my pros and cons on Tom Brady today on Night of the Shield. Welcome back, everybody, to episode 2 of Night of the Shield. I'm Jason Smith, a.k.a. the Oakland Knight. And before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to everybody who watched episode 1. It was a slow starting video. It still is performing underwhelmingly, but that's okay. It's been a while since I've been consistent here on this channel, and I'm trying to change that. And 2 episodes this week is a great start. So I want to thank everybody who tuned in and watched and commented. I know there were some people that were not happy with some of the things that I had to say or disagreed, and I noticed that here in the Raider Nation as of late. And again, I want to reiterate to everybody again, everybody has an opinion. Nobody's right. Nobody's wrong. It's okay to disagree, and it's okay to have a conversation, but none of it should be with hate or venom. Let's just talk about it. That's what we're here to do. We're just talking about it. That's what a whole podcast is. It's just someone's opinion talking, and that's what I'm doing. So if you're new here, please hit that like button, that notification bell, so you can be updated every time I drop another episode. And please hit that subscribe button. Let's kind of boost up ourselves up in the algorithm. I'm not so worried about my subs as I am my views. So if you could share this podcast, that would be fantastic, and I appreciate it. All right, let's go ahead and jump into topic number 1, which is Derek Carr's farewell letter. Now, a lot of great takes. A lot of people covered it yesterday. And look, I realize that everybody is reading this tweet for you and getting into detail, and I appreciate it because you're not going to get that from me. I'm legally blind. I'm not going to be able to read this out loud to you. Nor do I feel the need to. I think everybody knows what the tweet says, what's in it, the context of it. But I do want to give my opinion on it. So for those who don't know, yes, I am visually impaired. I'm legally blind. And this is one of the reasons why I do this. It's a way for me to advocate, to show people that you don't need sight for everything, right? Anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into my thoughts. So Derek Carr's letter was heartfelt. I would not expect anything less from Carr. Now, I know there's some things people are questioning inside the tweet on some of the things that have transpired. I've covered my thoughts on it a little bit, but I want to keep this 100% positive because this is Derek Carr. And this tweet says a lot for me and what I expect within the next few weeks, 3 weeks to a month at this point. So he talks about that fire burning in him that only God can put out. He tells everybody, I love you, God bless you. Now, for everybody who knows, I am a religious person. I'm a faith-driven individual. I do appreciate Carr's God family football approach to life. I believe that he says the right things, right? So the one thing that we have to realize is a lot of people, and I'll even put myself in this category, because it was sometime last year, early on last year is when I started to kind of realize from a quarterback perspective, it was time to move on. That was my personal thoughts. And for everybody who's been following me and knows ever since even 2014 when we drafted him, huge Carr fan, huge Carr supporter. And that was even before all the faith stuff was prominent. I liked his ability. I liked the guy himself. Like, he could throw the football. And I think that gets lost in the shuffle here. And it's going to play a big part in how teams are going to be conversating with his agent and the Raiders. And we'll get into that here in a second. But he did a lot of good things. He stabilized the position for a very long time. 9 years. And this last year was his worst year. I mean, after having the experience that he has, to be able to perform. Look, the bottom line is, he didn't fit the system. That's my opinion. It's my opinion. He just did not fit the system. Does that mean that he's an elite quarterback? No, it does not. Does that mean he's without fault? No, it does not mean he's without fault. Watch the tapes, right? He has every quarterback in Derek Carr's category has faults, but his numbers don't lie. He has ability to throw the football. He has the ability to read defenses. He's got that clutch factor as far as he's well composed in fourth quarter late drives. And you're not going to win them all. You're not going to be perfect in those situations every single time. But this letter just shows that he has this fire, and his vision was not to end it the way that it did. But here again, this is a business decision. I know if I have a full-time job, right? If I don't perform, I'm not going to get benched. And I don't believe he was. I believe he was fired. I think the idea that Derek was mistreated and not handled correctly, I still don't buy that. I believe that even before that contract was signed, we can get right in. This is going to lead up right into what I feel about his trade opportunities, or how we should view it from his agent's point of view, Derek's point of view, and the Raiders' point of view. And he knew that this was going to be a prove it year. And the reason I know that is because the way that the contract is laid out. Well, everybody says it was a team-friendly deal. I think it's even beyond a team-friendly deal. I believe it's fitting for what Carr has done. I mean, he has the numbers, he has the records, but we are always going to look at wins and losses, and that's what dictated this contract the most. And there's a reason why there's a no-trade clause added. There's a reason why, you got till the end of the Super Bowl. They're basically saying, here, we're going to make you prove it before we pay it. And Derek's like, confident Derek, because you even hear it you hear it when you're reading the tweet that he's confident. He did not envision it going down this way. Carr, very confident person, very competitive person, was like, I got this. And when it didn't work out, I think that's where he started to get a little bit emotional and fall apart. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's a passionate dude. He loved playing for the Raiders. He loved the Raider Nation. Even with all the hate, he's always had his same demeanor. He put that no trade contract part in there because he knew if this was to fall apart, he wanted to at least have control of what happened to him moving forward. And it also lets me know that he never had intentions whether or not he was going to be a Raider next year or moving forward, he was going to play somewhere else. That was always, this has been going on since Gruden was here, guys. This is not anything new to Derek. He's been under the microscope since Gruden. Is he going to be traded? And Gruden never fully came out and said he was my guy. So year in and year out, regardless of what is said that Gruden told him behind the scenes or not, you never count your chickens until they're hatched. And a lot of people think that's what the Raiders have done. No, I think the Raiders have been more than upfront. He knew from the get-go of what was going on. And I don't believe they made that decision 2 weeks into it because they would have pulled him a lot sooner. Not saying they would have pulled him week 2, but they would have pulled him a lot sooner. So what does that mean? Character matters, guys. There's a reason why David Carr has not took to Harvest podcast yet. Hasn't gone on his son's podcast and boosted the numbers and views to get his feelings off his chest, which I do believe he speaks for Derek Carr. Why? Because character matters. And Derek Carr is not only looking for an opportunity to prove his worth as a quarterback, he's also have put himself in a position where he has to protect his character. So when people say, why would Derek take a trade if he could just really stick it to the Raiders? Why would he want to give the Raiders something on the way out the door? First and foremost, it's simple, character, because it's Derek Carr. Derek Carr was emotional. I'm sure he was extremely upset. I'm sure he's still upset. And the competitive person that he is, I'm sure that he's still upset. It's like, no, I could win a Super Bowl with the Raiders. That's what you want out of an athlete, period. Right? So I believe that he believes in himself. So character first. And his best friend's on the team. He could always look at it as a way that he's helping his boys out, these people that he loves, these people that he cares about. And I don't think the players would take it personal if he didn't get some compensation for him. I think they understand his situation, and it is a business, and Derek has every right to be like, nah, we're good, cut me. But here's the deal, and it's been covered so much, right? There's a difference between getting paid with that. That's not a bad contract. And I think it's even more than maybe offered if he goes out in free agency and tries to find people that will sign him for that much money. But what you're looking for in a trade too, there's a difference between somebody saying they want you and someone who's willing to give up something to have you. He's looking for people that are going to be invested in him no matter what. He says it in the tweet. And what better way to prove that than to say, I'm willing to give up some capital to make sure that you're our quarterback. And there's a lot of speculations on where and when and all that jazz, right? And if they can get a principal deal in place, then maybe they can ask Carr to extend it a month to ensure that the deal is secure. And if they don't, if Carr's like, nah, not doing that, that's a red flag and you cut him. So the Raiders are not going to get stuck. If they get a deal in place in principle, they ask Carr, if you want to play with this and you remove your no trade clause, we're going to ask that you extend it a month. We're protected. You're protected. We're good. So I'm not worried about what happens. And to be honest, I'm not worried whether or not we get something for him or not. The biggest thing that we want out of this situation is a future. And the only way we're going to have a future is if we get that money back. So whether or not we get compensation or not, to me, is irrelevant. How could I see this going down? Well, without having a crystal ball in front of me and knowing exactly, I think there was reported maybe 4 teams that he may be interested in. I'm hoping 2 of those teams are in the NFC South, and I believe they could be. I believe that maybe New Orleans is on that list and maybe even Carolina. And if that's the case, that opens the door wide open. Hey, maybe that 3rd team is Tampa Bay, right? And maybe even Atlanta. Maybe NFC South is something that he has his eyes on. And I'll get into it real quick. Why not? The reason I find the NFC South interesting is, number one, there's no solid quarterback in that division, with the exception of maybe Tom Brady, which we're going to talk about here in a few. And he's leaving. He's not coming back. So he would be, at the moment, if a trade was to happen in the NFC South, he would be the best quarterback as of right now anyway, if the trade is accepted in that division, in my opinion. And it's also the weakest division in the NFL right now, which means the door is wide open for him to be the best quarterback in that division, which would open the doors for him to maybe make a move, make the playoffs, and kind of prove the critics wrong. And I just look at that. Plus, if you get 2 or more, especially in that division, competing for a guy like Derek Carr, which is the questionable thing here, right? As you know, is 2 or more in that division going to compete for Derek Carr? Do they feel like that's going to be the answer? We don't know. But if that happens, it can create a bit of a bidding war, which ensures 2 things. It ensures that Carr continues to play ahead with this contract, okay? Which would be a fantastic deal for any team, even though it might be a bit more than they would pay whether if he was a free agent, right? Because it's not like the contract is Aaron Rodgers-esque, right? Aaron Rodgers got $50 million. Now, he's Aaron Rodgers. And it's been a year. And you know, and you've seen it year in and year out, that going rate is about 55 to 60 about now, if not more, for a quarterback of Aaron Rodgers' stature, right? So Derek could be worth an easy 40 to 45, which is kind of where he's at. But the average of his contract is about 40, maybe even a little less than that. So his contract is not as big of a deal for someone to absorb than people think, okay? Signing bonuses, all that kind of stuff is it's already in the contract. It's a done deal, real easy. You trade for him, you want him, or you don't. That only ensures that he gets that money, which would make him happy. Plus, you know, the Raiders are going to get, I mean, I still don't think anybody's going to be willing to give a 1st-round pick up for a guy that you know you're going to have to cut if we don't trade. But I do believe if you create the competition and Derek's like, oh, hey, who wants me more? Because you want to feel that love. Look, athletes are narcissistic naturally. We all are. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm a bit narcissistic. I look at my views. Who's listening to me? I read the comments. How many disagree? How many think I'm stupid? How many, like, it bothers me. I want to be liked and I want to be heard and I want my opinion to matter. And this is YouTube. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't feel like, I wanted some self-loathing reward for it. Period. And that's me just being real and honest. Athletes are even like, no, I'm going to be a free agent just to stick it to you, go against everything in my character, everything in that letter where he states he wants somebody to invest in him no matter what, right? I'm going to go against all of that to prove a point. And what point are you proving? There's no point, in my opinion, to be had at that. Like you want that person to give up something for you. It would make you feel good. See what I'm worth? I'm worth the first round pick. So don't necessarily scratch it off the board that we will not get a first round pick. But I think in order to get that first round pick, there's going to have to be a competitive nature into the services for Derek Carr, which, let's be honest too, that's interesting in itself. I would love to see how many teams that are on his list, heard for, maybe it could be more, that are willing to battle it out and be like, no. Because again, if you have that many teams interested in you and you're a free agent, that drives the price up. If you just give up the pick, the contract's set. So there's a lot of stuff we just don't know. We don't know. We have to let it play out. But the main thing that I wanted to say about all that is, number one, his character counts. Okay. And trust me, we will hear from David Carr. Once the smoke's clear and everything, and he's settled into his new place, we will hear the David/Derek Carr side of the story. I don't think it's a smart move. I think it's a smart move that they don't do it now. Because again, do you want to get into that mess? I don't. I don't want to hear it. We will hear it, but I don't want to hear it. Because it starts to get a little petty. And Derek cannot be the one to do it because he has a ministry to protect. Now, I'm not going to get all super religious. I just want to make one statement. As a Christian man, an older Christian man at this point, I have my criticism when it comes to religion. Christianity, my faith, is one thing. The religion structure, the business side of church, which I don't fully believe in, like, hey, everything has to have operational money. But if your character don't line up to the way that you're spending that money or the way you're asking for money or the way you're conducting yourself, there's a lot to be said. And trust me, guys, I'm not perfect, far from it. He's not perfect, far from it. But he chose to have a platform outside of football that proclaims, I'm this guy. I'm an adorned pastor. I'm a minister. So regardless if I'm happy or accepting that he needs to move on, because I think it's best for him and it's best for the Raiders, because I think there's fault on both sides, right? I think our organization has let him down and many, many, many others before him, as well as the situation with him personally about how he's not the guy or just didn't seem to fit, right? It is what it is. But moving forward, he has a character outside of football that he has to maintain. And as someone who believes in a man of faith, that standard, I'm still holding on him. That's the only thing that I'm holding on Derek as he walks out the door. Are you going to continue to show the type of character you've shown over the last 9 years? Do the right thing. Do not be prideful. Do the right thing. It's okay to be prideful. It's okay to be mad and want revenge. And if you feel that's the best move for you and your family, then there's nothing wrong with you doing so. But your character does matter. And you put that persona out there for yourself, and you have to own it. Business is business. It's not personal. It truly is not. If it was personal, he would have been gone a long time ago. Here nor there. I'm done with that. So to all the people that are still extremely upset at the Raiders, Mark Davis, the coaching staff, it is your right to feel that way. Your opinion matters. If you're willing to hold on to that opinion, good for you. But just to be able to know that you have to let that go at some point as we move forward, because it's over. And something else is going to come along that may or may not be better, but we just don't know. So until that time happens, grieve, be mad. Pick your side. We have all picked our side. I'm cool, man. I'm neutral. I'm laid back. I'm not stressed out over it at all. I still believe that the greatness of the Raiders is in its future. And we just got to wait to see what that future looks like. And on that note, what a perfect time to segue into Tom Brady, right? Or just the quarterback situation as a whole. Because we talked about it even in episode 1, and I've talked about Stiddy. So just to kind of reiterate myself, just for those who didn't listen to episode 1 or watch episode 1, look, we need to bring Stidham back. First and foremost, that is the number one quarterback priority on my list. Why? Every team needs a solid number 2, right? Period. Stiddy's proven that. He's proven that. Now, I also said in the last episode that after 4 years in the system, even though I know the man had never started an NFL game before, he showed promise, but I don't necessarily think I saw greatness, meaning I saw Marcus Tuiasosopo. I seen McGloin, right? I seen a really good spark to come off the bench when needed, but I don't see Stiddy even starting next year and being of the caliber of a Justin Herbert or a Patrick Mahomes or even a Russell Wilson, who is not dead in the water, okay? Russell Wilson is a perfect example of how an organization can ruin a good thing. At least that's my stand as of now. Now, if Russell continues to perform in the way that he did last year with the Broncos after a fresh start and maybe, correcting the wrongs, then that's another conversation for next year. But to me, it was an organizational thing. It was a coaching thing. The wheels fell off, and once the wheels are off, they're very hard to put back on. We dealt with the same thing, but not as extreme, right? Derek's wheels fell off. Okay. And once that happens, once the doubt was there from an owner perspective. The coaching staff did the honorable thing and gave him an opportunity. He couldn't win them over. So it's the same thing. Same thing. Russell's going to have another chance. They're kind of forced to give him another chance too, because they've given up so much capital to get him. So, but again, I think Stiddy is something you want as a backup, 100%. And I think he will not get a starting job anywhere else. And it would make sense for him to want to be in the same situation. Okay, now moving forward. The next chapter, the next episode. Who's next? Jimmy G? Tom Brady? Maybe Justin Brissett. Like, that name's not mentioned enough, right? He shows some good things. Knows the system. Tom Brady's number one. Tom Brady's number one. For many reasons. He's the GOAT. Period. He's the GOAT. You talk about records, you talk about sustainability, not only from New England, but what he was able to do and show in Tampa. The man broke the record last year for 485 completions. Even in a bad year where he's having all these offensive turmoils, the team's falling apart, he breaks his own record and throws for 495 completions, right? The biggest thing the biggest cons that I have are, one is Father Time. Father Time is undefeated. Father Time calls the shots here, right? Like, it just seems to happen, and it happens in an off season. It doesn't gradually happen all the time, right? So I worry about that. I truly worry about that. I worry about our organization thinking too big about him being the GOAT and not really looking at it through clear glass to say, this makes sense now. And how much is that worth? And what are we willing to give up and do for essentially maybe 1 year? Okay. Are they going to try to push Brady just because he's the GOAT and push it more than they need to and not think about our future? Because if the opportunity is there in round 1 or round 2 or round 3, what is our future? What is our long-term plan? Because that's what we keep on hearing, right? And a guy like Brady can throw you off your game plan, can throw you off your mission, and that is a little disturbing, and I worry about that element of it. The biggest problem, the biggest con that I have is we've been dealing with for the past 4 years And even more, because trust me, I know people that have been following this channel since the day we got Carr that has not liked Carr. And they have stuck to their guns. They don't waver. And this was way before Gruden. Okay. But ever since Gruden, okay, that's all we hear. It's literally divided the fan base. And I already know that there's a ton of fans out there right now. Some, yes, are still mad about the Carr situation. Some are just mad at Brady for the tuck rule. That wasn't Brady's call. If the roles were reversed and that was Rich Gannon would have called it a non-fumble during the game anyway, right? I think it's been on record that Tom said it's a fumble or whatever. He's told Woodson. Look, that is a league thing. That is a referee thing. That is not a Patriot thing per se. It's not a Raider thing anymore. The bottom line is we have an opportunity. But I just feel like it'll divide the fan base more. I think that's all we're going to. Everything that Tom Brady does is going to be scrutinized tenfold. That is my biggest con of bringing in Brady, right? Even with all the other stuff, right? Like I'm tired of the divide. There's a divide in everything in this country right now. It's annoying. Pick a side. It's either you do or you don't. Pick a side. Pick a color. Red, blue, right, left. Pick your race. Stick to your race. It's ridiculous of what we're dealing with in this country. And it's creeped into everything that I follow and love. You want to talk about discrimination, enter my disability world. It's crazy out there, especially for the blind individuals who I fight for every single day on my 8 to 5. Okay. Every day, I'm getting ready to go after a school district because they're not treating and giving equal opportunity to people with disabilities in the school district. So trust me, it's everywhere. But when it comes to being able to detach from the world and be able to watch something you love and follow something you love, and you have to continue to deal with the divide and the angriness and the I'm right. Again, I'll reiterate, own your own opinion. You have a right to feel the way that you feel, and that makes you right for you. And it makes it right for me. But make no question about it. Don't question it whatsoever. The reality will be in our record and whether or not we're in the playoffs next year. Period. And no, it does not matter what Derek Carr does because he's not a Raider. It just don't. I root for the guy. I hope he goes to the playoffs next year. I hope he gets a playoff win. I truly do. But it's irrelevant because he's not a Raider. So whatever we do, whatever we decide, and it makes sense. We need a bridge quarterback, period. And I'd rather have Tom Brady over Jimmy G and Brissett, period. Because it is short term. Unless Mark and this coaching staff tried to push Brady too far. Brady's going to have his limits. He's older. And we need to be ready for that. Now, as far as how I feel about the draft and drafting our future, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. Year after year, we watch people that tell us how good this quarterback is, how good, we make fun of the Jamarcus Russell pick that Al did. Everybody has said they would have picked Jamarcus Russell. His workouts were John Elway-esque. That was the comparison for Jamarcus Russell. Who wouldn't want a John Elway? The man could throw 70 yards from a knee. And the things that happened with Jamarcus Russell, the signs were probably there, but everybody overlooked it, or were so enamored with his ability as an athlete that they overlooked the fact that this guy could have a weight problem, an emotional problem that would lead him to the purple drink, to lead into one of the biggest busts in NFL history. So I say this. I don't want us to jump the gun. No one jumped the gun on Brady, greatest of all time. No one jumped the gun on Montana, second best of all time. Patrick Mahomes, Nobody saw that coming. Nobody can sit here and tell me Patrick Mahomes was going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, youngest quarterbacks in the NFL right now. What about Aaron Rodgers? Everybody overlooked Aaron Rodgers, and he sat behind Favre forever, and he came in multiple MVPs, a Super Bowl. The guy is off the charts. So, again, I don't want to push the issue, whether or not we do it in the first, second round, or later on, we take a diamond in the rough. Maybe we trade for another guy that we're going to develop, or maybe we wait till next year and take our chances. I just don't want to rush the situation. It definitely has to be priority number one, but that priority number one has to be gauged in a different light. Anyway, that's what I'm going to have for today, Raider Nation. Just know, we have to let everything play out. We could have opinions. We could voice our opinions. It is fun to have an opinion. It is fun to speculate and navigate and investigate all the gates. Now we're going to have Deflate Gate 2 coming our way. We're all about the gates, right? We'll just have to let it play out. We have to let it play out. I'm the first and foremost, we got to see what this Derek Carr thing produces. And I'm going to reiterate again before I get out of here. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how many people go after Derek to ensure that they get him. His winning record is not great, but his character is, and his numbers show that he can throw the football. We can't deny that. There will be people that are going to definitely kick the tires and be calling his agent, talking to the Raiders. There's going to be I don't know, I can't tell you how big the buzz is going to be, but there will be a buzz. And whether or not they feel that they're going to make the trade or force the Raiders into cutting, we'll have to see. But the biggest thing that would force a trade, if Derek accepts, because Derek has that right, and so people that think that the Raiders the Raiders let him have that no trade clause. Like, they understand what he's meant to this organization, and they're not trying to screw Derek Carr. They're giving Derek the boot, but they're giving Derek the choice. And I think if we get the right two teams, that's all we need is two, that want him bad enough that he would play for either one, is how we will get draft picks. And then if we get what we want in a deal, I do believe, because of Derek Carr's character, that he'd push it into March, and we'll be okay. We'll have to wait and see. Again, thank you for watching. Please leave your comment section down below. Let me know what you feel about Tom Brady. Let me know what you think of, after what I said, my take, my opinion, what you guys think is the possibility for us getting some compensation. I'm not saying first rounder here. I'm not even saying second. But I do think that we could get a trade and even get a third or a fourth. But if the right buzz happens and the right two teams go at it, that third and fourth could turn into a first and two or whatever. Anything would be a victory, and for Derek and for the Raiders. It's a win-win situation for both sides. So, again, let's let that play out. Thank you. Again, leave it in the comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Hit that like button. Share this out. Please get this podcast back out there to people. Hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, so you can be updated every time I drop another podcast. And as always, Raider Nation, stay Raider strong. I'm out.